Welcome to Creating Connections Podcast, episode 116. I am Mitch Taylor.
And I'm Vicki Musney.
And what are we talking about today, Vicki?
Today is our episode where we go through our Sales for Event Pros Facebook group and look for a fun post, a good question to give us our topic for the episode.
There's been a ton of activity in the group as of late.
Yeah.
Which is awesome to see, and people from all walks of the event pro life.
Good sharing, good conversations.
Yeah, there's over 1,200 peeps in there
fun.
now, so it's awesome to see.
Awesome. But I picked one post that we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
All right. So you want to hear what it is? Keep listening. Keep watching. See you after the break.
That was nice and easy.
What are you talking about? This also speaks to a much bigger issue.
Providing personal solutions through understanding people. This is the Creating Connections Podcast with Gitomer Certified Advisor Mitch Taylor and Certified Personality Trainer Vicki Musney.
Welcome back to Creating Connections Podcast, episode 116. I'm Mitch.
And I'm Vicki.
And today we're going to pull from the grab bag that is Sales for Event Pros Facebook group. What do you have for us today, Vicki?
Yes, in any sales forum, the topic of how do I handle certain inquiries comes up regularly.
Absolutely.
But I liked this one a lot because it shared just a little screenshot of the inquiry. I think it's going to make for a good conversation. It was a great thread, and I just want to bring it up on the podcast.
Okay.
But it was an inquiry that came in for DJ services for a midweek event, not a wedding. It was like a luau party. And they just wanted music and master of ceremonies. Just wanted music and MC. And it sounds like the client already had some activities and games planned and wanted a DJ to run the whole show for those 4.5 hours. And it sounds like he gave a quote. It was through Gig Masters and got this response. "Oh my God, you are so expensive. You are more than double everybody else. What makes your services so special that you can charge $1,000?
There was a lot of response on that thread.
There was.
There typically is for pricing threads. And to me, I'll just state what I said in the thread. Did you reply in that thread, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
How'd I miss yours?
I don't know.
Somewhere here. So anyway, I said, when is good for us to chat? And you can then discover why our past couples chose to invest more than $1,000 in entertainment and what they thought the difference was.
And I think you actually responded that way too before he had shared the details about that it wasn't a wedding and that it was midweek. Because I think a lot of people were harping right away and going, I can't believe you're only charging $1,000. But that really, I don't think, is the point. Regardless of what type of event it is or what type of service it is or where you normally fall, if you are more than twice what a client is expecting, you need to know how to respond to that.
Yeah. And
this doesn't matter if it's DJ or photography or videography or planning. Somehow they have an idea in their mind, either because they were getting other quotes from Gig Masters or somebody told them, oh, you should only be paying this, wherever that number comes from, they have it. They have this prefix number. And if you're twice that much, you need to know how to respond. But I think the other thing that we're dealing with here is this was not a phone conversation. This was not an in-person meeting. This wasn't somebody that came by the office or met them at an expo or a fair of some kind. This was over email or over texting, over text, regardless of the format, a Gig Master message.
Right.
So how you read it, how you interpret it may or may not be the way that the client meant it.
Absolutely. And oftentimes people can grow keyboard balls, if you will. And again, like you said, we're not necessarily hearing it in the tone it was intended to be heard. And even today, I had an exchange with someone who clearly didn't read what I wrote. They interpreted it way differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
well, and I could read that same message 3 different times, 3 different ways.
yes.
You know what I mean? And yes, it's possible that she could be super sarcastic and angry and not wanting any information. And it could very well, what makes you so special that you could charge $1,000? If it's that
Right.
person doesn't actually want an answer.
Correct.
But she could be saying, oh my gosh, what's different about you that you can charge twice as much as everybody else? Why are people paying you more?
Right.
Tell me what's special about you. If that's her heart, then you've got the open door to have the conversation of explaining value.
Yes.
But that's the extra trick with a message where you can't see
right.
the expression or hear an expression or make eye contact or know if they're smiling or laughing out of anger or if they're just curious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the challenge too, you know? So
it is.
Yes, getting as much information, and you and I talk about this a lot, the search process, and, you know, I don't use Gigmaster, so I don't know if you have access to much information already, if there is a way to get any information. But I guess if you don't know, I would hope that you could assume the positive.
Yes.
Rather than assuming that she's angry and sarcastic and grumpy and doesn't care and is just looking for the lowest price, assume that she might actually want to know what makes you special.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think assuming the positive in a case like this where you don't have much else to go on is going to be the best way to go.
It really is, because if you respond in the negative, then
and she meant the positive?
Right. You're going to turn her off.
And worst case, if she meant the negative and you responded as if it was the positive, she might laugh a little bit more and not call you back.
Yeah.
But
and
what if you're missing out on somebody that really does want to understand your value?
Yeah. Absolutely. And
so,
what
yes.
Jim Cerrone said in the thread, I think is also important. And Jim Cerrone commented at the very end is, you shouldn't say anything. Cut and paste your latest thank you note with a link to more reviews she can read. Let your clients speak for you. I think that is absolutely sage advice here, and something you absolutely should follow. And I think one of the biggest questions that I've been asking as of late, and I even asked it of my friend yesterday that I was talking to, you know, someone that knows me on a personal level, but was looking for advice on entertainment for her wedding, was very simply, what do you want your experience to be for your guests? What do you want your experience to be? It is an experience. If it was just, the more you boil it down to the gear and the music and the time and, you know, the hard items, the physical items.
Or your time and your camera or whatever it is. Because this concept is universal, I think, in this industry.
Yes, but the more, we're speaking DJ here because
this inquiry was, but yeah.
The more you boil it down to that, the more price becomes the biggest factor possible. And when you open it up to what they want to get out of their event, here's a great example. I'll share this with you. I haven't shared this anywhere yet, except for with Kaylee in the office here. So we're getting
I love news stories.
Guy calls me yesterday, a father of the bride, and the wedding is literally 2 months from today.
Okay.
Yesterday, 2 months from yesterday, July 8th. And he's looking for entertainment, and they had a band, and the band fell through.
Oops.
So reality is they're looking for entertainment now, and we have a conversation. And one thing I said triggered with him when I was quoting him And I said, up to 40 hours of planning and production. And he's like, wait a minute, 40 hours? What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. And I explained to him that the work is in that part of it. Earlier in the conversation, we were talking, and he has told me that he may have to go in a little bit. He works the grounds crew at a local golf course. And so the conversation was very easily for me to then switch and say, the reality is, you can't just go out on the golf course right now in early May, throw seed down and expect the golf course to be as pretty as it possibly can be for your players. You have to plan it in advance, back in like October, November, right? Mm-hmm. Of what you're going to do for winter prep to make sure your golf course is set to play ready in May.
Well, and there's maintenance and there's all kinds of other things that go into that. And
I said, it's the same exact thing. We're not going to walk in and just wing your daughter's wedding reception, because to do that means your experience is less. Mm-hmm. If it was just about music, rent an iPod or rent some speakers and plug in an iPod and call it a day.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But the reality is you probably want more, being this is your daughter's wedding reception, and you have one shot to get it right. You're going to have multiple seasons in the future for golf. You're not going to have multiple weddings in the future for your daughter.
Yeah. So how did he receive that?
He received it pretty well, and as we discussed in our last episode, I gave them a little bit of time to think. He went home and talked to his wife, and he should be calling me back today or tomorrow. I got to actually follow up with him tomorrow.
Good.
But again, we'll see if he books or not.
And you had a little bit of an advantage in that case because you had context and you were actually having a conversation.
Correct.
But in a case like this, where you just get a message in, I just say choose the high road, assume they're asking you a legitimate question, read it in the best possible way, and respond in the best possible way. Even though you could potentially take it in a way that is offensive, it makes you go on the defensive.
But when if you can correlate like I did in that situation, if you can correlate something that they understand to how you set up your business and how you approach an event, and correlate it in a way that makes sense to them, and that will help.
Framing it in the positive, you know that she's got games already planned. Just saying, we're going to obviously have to meet ahead of time so I can really understand your vision. And I know you've got, certain activities already planned. I want to make sure that I'm prepared to execute those in the way that you want and in a way that all of your guests are going to have the experience that you are hoping for them.
Execute is such a great bridal word. I would totally go with that. No.
This isn't a wedding.
You know what I mean. Anyway, that's pretty much the sales conversation for today that we pulled from Sales for Event Pros. I want to thank Max for posting that. Greatly appreciate his post and your contributions. If you're a part of the conversation in Sales for Event Pros, thank you.
Yes,
if you're not, what are you waiting for? Jump in, join us over at facebook.com/sales for event pros, or just search for the group in the Facebook window there, search bar. And you'll find us, myself and Vicki and our good friend Jason Spencer from Profit First Professionals and Profit Academy help monitor sales for event pros as well. So,
and do make sure you have something about your business on your Facebook page, because we don't let everybody in, only people that are actually event pros. So
yes, very important.
We do that for all of you.
Yeah, very important we keep it that way. So thanks for watching and thanks for listening to the Creating Connections podcast, episode 116. I'm Mitch.
And I'm Vicki.
We're all about providing personal solutions through understanding people better. We'll see you next time.
Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Creating Connections podcast with Gittimer Certified Advisor Mitch Taylor and Certified Personality Trainer Vicki Musni. For more information on providing personal solutions through understanding people better, visit creatingconnections.biz.